This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9. English news as it should be.
Welcome to News 9 and you are watching On Point. Today we have two On Points. The first On Point is on how Modi's Kazan visit laid the foundation for India-China diplomatic reset. The second On Point is on Mumbai flooding, red alert again for Wednesday. Mumbai cast brace for another round of rain. Now let's take a quick look at the headlines. Former Supreme Court Judge Sudarshan Reddy is opposition's pick for Vice President election to take on NDA's candidate C.P. Radhakrishnan. Nehru divided India twice, says PM Modi at key NDA meet, blames him for Indus Water Treaty. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar embarks on 3-day visit to Russia to strengthen time-tested partnership. Police foiled protests by SFI in teaching job aspirants in West Bengal. Lokniti CSDS apologizes for data error. BJP hits out at Rahul Gandhi's vote theft claim in Maharashtra polls. Dharmsthala temple chief calls mass burial claims baseless, welcomes SIT probe. Shubham Gill back as vice captain in India's T20 team for Asia Cup led Suryakumar Yadav. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky hails summit at the White House with Trump as a major step forward. Focus shifts to security guarantees. Spain battles record wildfires as Europe braces for climate events. The two-day visit of Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, the first in more than 3 years, signals a reset in India-China ties. Bilateral relations had remained tense since the Galwan clash of 2020, but Prime Minister Modi's visit to Kazan that set the tone for Delhi bilateral. And the result is there for everyone to see. The fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi met a visiting foreign minister underlines the significance that India accords to Wang's visit. Earlier, Wang's meeting with NS Ajit Doval to discuss unresolved border issues marked the 24th round of special representative level talks between the two Asian giants.
I am very hopeful that like the last one, this 24th special representative level talks would be equally successful. Our Prime Minister will be visiting for the SCO summit shortly, and therefore I think that this SR level talks assume a very special importance. And this is the 75th year of our diplomatic relations, and it's a time to celebrate. And we find that with this new energy and the new momentum, that it is this thing be your personal efforts and with the maturity and the sense of responsibility of our diplomatic teams and our missions in the countries, your ambassador here, and also our armies on the borders, we have been able to make it this thing. So thank you very much, sincerely, and welcome your initial remarks.
Mr. Doval, I'm very pleased to meet you again in New Delhi for this round of talks between the special representatives of China and India on the boundary question. The setbacks we experienced in the past few years were not in the interests of the people of our two countries. And then in October last year, President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi had an important meeting in Kazan. That meeting pointed the direction for the development of our bilateral relations and provided impetus for the proper settlement of the boundary question. We had a very good 23rd round end of last year. At that meeting, we reached new and important consensus on the management of disagreements, stabilizing the borders, and moving toward a settlement. We identified specific goals and formed a working framework. We are heartened to see the stability that is now restored in the borders. Mr. Doval, I appreciate your effort that you made as Special Representative of the Indian side. Now, the bilateral relationship is facing an important opportunity of improvement and growth. The Chinese side attaches great importance to the Prime Minister's visit to China to attend the SCO summit at our invitation. We believe that the Indian side will also make your contribution to a successful summit in Tianjin.
双边关系目前面临着
Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi's meet at Kazan charted the course for the reset, is something which is the mantra behind the bilateral that has taken place in Delhi. So let me tell you how the reset has taken place. The bilateral relations entered steady development track. Now this is the Chinese statement that has come out. It says that the border situation is improving. The Chinese statement also says that India-China shares common values. Doval also said, which is part of the Chinese statement, it is necessary to enhance trust. PM is looking forward to SCO, border management to be strengthened, talks in accordance with the principles agreed in 2005. So this is the statement released by the Chinese. But this mutual accommodation was visible in this trip from the starting itself. Because after their meeting on August 18th, Wang Yi assured External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar that the Beijing will resume critical exports to India, including fertilizers, rare earth minerals and tunnel boring machines used in key infrastructure projects, meeting three long-standing Indian concerns. India's dependence on Chinese import for specific high-tech and industrial inputs, particularly in the fertilizer and electronic sector, has made supply disruptions in recent years economically unviable. The resumption shows pragmatic cooperation in trade and infrastructure can continue even as broader strategic differences remain to be sorted through building greater trust. During his meeting with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, Jaishankar said, peace along the border is essential for progress in India-China relations. He affirmed that the two countries must move on a different plane and they must move on from a difficult phase. He said, three M's must guide the ties: mutual respect, mutual sensitivity, and mutual interest.
Having seen a difficult period in our relationship, Excellency, our two nations now seek to move ahead. This requires a candid and constructive approach from both sides. In that endeavor, we must be guided by the three mutuals: mutual respect, mutual sensitivity, and mutual interest. Differences must not become disputes, nor competition conflict.
Meanwhile, the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said, India-China relations are showing a positive trend towards returning to cooperation. He emphasized that the two countries should view each other as partners and not rivals. Now, this brings me to the bigger question. Is it a reset of ties between India and China? On this issue, I am joined by Anand Tangin, political and economic affairs commentator who joins me live from China. Thank you so much, sir. Ambassador Veena Sikri. Thank you, madam. Former Indian diplomat and Professor Swaran Singh, Center for International Politics. Aina, my question to you is this a reset? Can we say, is it a reset post-2020?
I think it's an opportunity for a reset, but the fact is that we're going to have to wait and see. I mean, there's two directions this can take. The elephant in the room that has not been addressed is what the U.S. has been doing to India. Election interference, Bangladesh claiming it has settled the dispute between Pakistan and India, signing the long-term agreements with Pakistan and Balochistan. And also, this 50% tariff on basics and 25% and threats that if India continues with the BRICS, that there'll be another 10% and perhaps 100% if there's any indication that U.S. believes that there's an alternative currency to the U.S. dollar. So with that in mind, I mean, these talks take on a new perspective. One, there could be a reset and there could be cooperation. I think it would have to take the form of not just China and India, but India and the BRICS as a whole, who would have 40% of the world's GDP, the most land, resources, people, 4 times as much manufacturing as the US, and would be in a position to tell Donald Trump to knock it off, that unilateral actions will not be tolerated. So that could be one action. The other is that this is simply an exercise in trying to get Washington's attention and leverage, Beijing against Washington.
Okay. Ambassador Sikri, your opening comments. Do you think it's a reset? If you have gone through the statement, it says that the guiding principle of 2005 gets a special mention in the 3rd paragraph, the Chinese release. And it says that as per the guiding principle of 2005, we have decided to sort our mutual differences. But my question is, Madam, is it enough to say that the relationship has moved forward from 2020?
Yes, I think certainly the relationship has moved forward from the depths that it had reached in 2020, and we do know that that was a traumatic time for both countries. India lost a lot of its jawans and officers, and China also lost a very large number of its men and officers in the clash in Galwan in 2020. So I think that was a point that we should never have reached, and we have to come back from that point. I think the series of meetings, the meeting in Kazan last year, and then visit by our External Affairs Minister to China last November, December, and then now the visit by Foreign Minister Wang Yi to India, with the prospect of our Prime Minister going to the SCO summit in Tianjin and having another round of meetings with President Xi Jinping. This provides a golden opportunity. But I think that there are certain aspects that we have to look at very clearly. For example, I do think that it was a promising sign that in the readout from Beijing of the meeting between Foreign Minister Wang Yi and our External Affairs Minister, and then later with Mr. Doval on the 24th round of the border talks, there were 2 aspects used. One, of course, they were talking about bullying through tariffs. That was one aspect. The other aspect, I saw that they used the word multipolarity in the world. Now, is this a change in Beijing's approach? Because hitherto, Beijing had been talking about a G2, and they were trying to convince the Americans on having a G2, that is USA and China leading the world. And in fact, my apprehension has been that actually President Trump is trying to be convinced on that aspect by China. So this is one aspect. I think on the tariffs, certainly India is very disturbed, and China is also next in line. I mean, although China has been given a second 90-day pass, but that depends on the negotiations. And I think in BRICS, it is not only India that is there, but there is Russia and China and everybody else. So I think that is another aspect. But even coming to the border issues, even what you spoke about, the 2005, there has been some resumption of patrolling, but has there been a full disengagement? That means have the troops and the machinery and the infrastructure, has it been moved back from the border so that to ensure that there will be no resumption of hostilities? I think this is an aspect on which both countries have to look at very carefully, and I'm sure that in the 24th round of the special representative talks on the border, this aspect would have been discussed, because this is a very important aspect, not only just the resumption of patrolling, but to look at the situation at the border. Both India and China have a huge number of troops at the border in Ladakh, and I think that this has to be sort of brought back tranquility on the border. EM and everybody,
Okay.
Doval has been that the key factor on the future of India-China relations does depend on the border and on tranquility at the border, which was completely disturbed and destroyed in 2020. So now what is the situation? Are we able to move beyond just the resumption of patrolling and move to some kind of formal disengagement and dismantling of the paraphernalia at the border, including the soldiers, including the infrastructure? It's a very, very important aspect.
Okay.
And I would like to point out one second aspect also, which is, of course, the relationship in South Asia, which is also another aspect, which is a major concern. You know, what is happening in Pakistan, for example. We do know that China has been giving direct assistance to Pakistan during Operation Sindoor, and the satellite readouts and all that has been giving direct assistance. But we do know that the Indian performance in Operation Sindoor showed up that, you know, what has happened to the Chinese air defense system and other aspects. So these are aspects that we have to look at. And now also, you know, in Bangladesh, a similar China. So there are sensitive issues, but India is committed to improving the relationship with China. And I think the visit today by Foreign Minister Wang Yi is a very, very important moment. It gives an important opportunity. We followed up very soon by meetings, by the meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Xi Jinping in Beijing.
Okay. So, Professor Swing, my question is very simple. Are these parleys a result of the unpredictable policies of Donald Trump? Is it a fallout of what has happened in last 60 days? Or does it have a momentum of its own, not to deprive the agency of actors involved in Beijing and New Delhi?
There is no doubt Trump's tariffs have definitely added to this positive momentum in China-India relationship. But if you remember, the kind of change that happened following the Kazan meeting of Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping happened in October, which is way before January inauguration of President Trump. And in that sense, it's been a gradual process. To me, I wouldn't call it a recast. I think at best, it's a process of thawing of a relationship where both sides are indicating inclination to craft that reset potentially. And in that sense, both are making very, let's say, cautious and calculated gestures of opening up to each other in looking at areas where their interests can align. But, you know, they are still very cautious about things. And the immediate trigger, of course, as you mentioned, could be recent slapping of 50% of tariffs on Indian exports to United States by Donald Trump, which has seen both Foreign Minister and his very senior leader, Politburo member Wang Yi, and also China's ambassador Xu Feiyong in New Delhi, both mentioning or alluding to the bullying that world is facing, indicating that in that context, China and India can explore greater cooperation and working together. And of course, even more immediate could be the fact that China as a host country would like to make sure the Prime Minister of India, the largest population country, second largest economy within Shanghai Cooperation Organization, attends that meeting and makes his value addition. And I think this meeting that Wang Yi just now had with Prime Minister Narendra Modi is something which is an important, exciting inflection point. Because if you remember, Wang Yi's last visit during March of 2022 was virtually a disaster. Till his flight landed in Delhi at that time, one was not even sure that if he will be actually coming to Delhi, because he had just gone before that to Islamabad to address the plenary session of Organization of Islamic Conference, where he had said few things about Kashmir, and then of course went to Kabul from there. And therefore, there was a very, very angry responses from India at that time. And of course, he was not allowed to have any meeting with Prime Minister of India at that time. And that shows there is a bit of a change from then to now. And that has seen certain piecemeal actions taking place. But these are to fructify and materialize over a period of time. So I wouldn't call it a kind of a reset.
Okay.
At best, it's an inclination to potentially clinch a reset, perhaps in bilateral relations.
Okay, you know, diplomacy is about mutual interest. So let me ask this question from the perspective of Beijing, not from New Delhi. Why does this meeting suit China? What is on plate for China from the Beijing's perspective? this meeting?
From Beijing's perspective, it's very clear. The only way to deal, China can resist Donald Trump because they have a lock on not only rare earths, but they have many other cards that they can play, including the fact that so many American businesses are within China. The real issue here is that China wants a multipolar world, and that is not going to be done by China alone. It has to be an organization, for instance, the BRICS, that represents all quadrants of the world coming together and saying enough is enough. We're not going to be subject to these unilateral tariffs. Remember, the first set of tariffs was 180, including some very confused penguins. The second group of tariffs is equally nonsensical, and that's brought India to the forefront. I do agree with my colleagues that this is a continuation. India and China are neighbors. They have issues. They need to be sorted out. The timing of sorting that out, though, I do believe has been pushed forward by Donald Trump's reaction. India has a U.S. problem. The question is, how does it want to do with it? If it goes at the U.S. directly, it's asymmetrical warfare. India is not able to stand up to the U.S. And push back in ways that will really hurt the U.S. If India chooses to invoke BRICS and try to get other nations to stand behind it, as well as South Africa, which got hit with 30% tariffs, Brazil, which got hit with 50% as well, Russia and China, which have unknown situations, and the other countries that are involved, the other 5 countries who've joined. And these include Indonesia, the UAE. And these are all countries to be reckoned with. If they go to Donald Trump, I believe that he will live up to his nickname, Taco.
Aina, is it possible
Trump always chickens out.
Oh yes, that's taco theory. Trump always chickens out. Yes, I've also heard of it. But do you think it's possible for India and China together, easier said than done, to lead Global South?
I think the Global South is not going to be led by countries that it has to be a consensus. I don't think any country wants to have its policies affected or made in Beijing or Delhi or anywhere else. Just like every other country, they're sovereign, they want to be secure, they want a path towards development, and they want to be respected for the cultures that they have, their language, their history. This is the important part. That's what a multilateral world is. I'm afraid that there's still a lot of people who believe in the old ways, that it's about empire. Who's on top? Who makes the rules? I think that we need to put those days behind us and start embracing a new reality. Will it be easy? No. Consensus takes a longer time, but there are fewer wars when you have consensus, right? You have to have a world that is able to react to the pressures that we face. Climate change is real. I think people have realized that. And that is going to take a global effort. It can't be a situation where one country, the United States, decides it doesn't want to play because it doesn't believe, and if it does believe, it's somebody else's problem. This doesn't work anymore. It's time for the rest of the world to come together, to shed the colonial past, and to stand up and say, we will be counted and we will not be marginalized. And India has every reason to do that, and it has the history behind it. It was India who came up with the non-aligned movement, who said that it is time for countries not to be berated and belittled and dictated to, but to be independent, sovereign, and respected.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ambassador Sikri, do you agree with the fact that this, the idea or the theory that Trump is trying to do a reverse Kissinger has set a lot of things in action?
Well, I think I agree with our colleague from Beijing that multipolarity is certainly the answer. But I mean, it's new to see that coming from China. That's what I'm talking about, because China has not really been embracing multipolarity in a very big way. They have been giving the utmost priority to their relationship with the US. For India, strategic autonomy and multipolarity, and of course, as you spoke about non-alignment, this has been our credo, the essence of India's foreign policy since 1947. And now it has been totally, reinforced by under Prime Minister Modi, who has been talking about, the multipolarity and talking about strategic autonomy in a big way. Now, the strategic autonomy that Prime Minister Modi is talking about, and which India considers very important, it's the keystone of our foreign policy. This includes having a good relationship with the USA as well. It's not that we are going to combine with other countries against the USA, because that does not fall in the compass of strategic autonomy. We are going to continue the dialogue with the USA, and there's no time at which you're going to walk out of the dialogue. I know that with China also, the dialogue with America is continuing. Their trade talks could not end in the first 90 days, and they need another 90 days pass on tariffs so that they can continue the trade talks. Obviously, there's some problems there. But India is also going to continue the dialogue, and there are many aspects of the India-US relationship that are continuing. I mean, just last week or 10 days ago, there was the launch of the NISAR satellite, a very special satellite built together by ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization, and NASA. So I think the other projects which are continuing, we had with participation of senior colleagues from America, from the White House. So we believe in explaining everything, and we believe that we will not accept anything which is unfair or unequal. We called out the tariffs very clearly. We've said they're unfair and unreasonable and unjustified. We said that immediately. So, but it doesn't mean that with that we're going to sort of, So this is what I'm saying, that the talks with China, the visit of Foreign Minister Wang Yi, the forthcoming discussion between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping, they are very, very important. And we hope that these talks and these visits will lead to a genuine reset and an upward mobility in the bilateral India-China relationship, which will be lasting and which will continue to build upon each step. So that we move ahead. And in this, the border tranquility is very important. That is why the disengagement, the de-escalation and disengagement at the border is very important. So we are looking at progress on that. And we are looking at further indications. We've seen the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra has been started, tourist visas are now being given, the flights will start, the direct flights will start. China, Foreign Minister Wang Yi has given an assurance on tunnel boring machines, on rare earths, and on fertilizers.
Yes.
And indicating this will all continue. So these are all steps in the right direction. We hope that they can build a momentum of their own, and we will see some real announcements when Prime Minister Modi is in Tianjin for the SCO summit.
Okay. And Professor Swing, before I close my conversation, there is also an issue which I require, the topic which I touched with you yesterday. It's about the perception, the perception within the civil society in India vis-a-vis China, and the perception of India vis-a-vis the civil society of China. Is that also an issue?
Definitely. In fact, for about 20 to 25 years, we have seen Chinese leaders talking about public opinion, something that they believe matters in their interactions and rapprochement with India. And of course, India is more than a democracy. Sometimes we say excess of democracy. And Indian public opinion also matters. And both sides have their great share of mutual skepticism, which you can see at various levels, including at the level of street and of course all the way up among the leaders as well. So for example, yes, the lofty high moral positions are excellent. All the right sounding words you heard during Wang Yi's meeting with Ajit, Doval and Dr. Jaishankar are fantastic. But both sides remain very cautious and concerned. For example, what is it that worries China the most about India? It is India's growing proximity with the United States. Now reverse that argument, and Chinese of course will welcome tensions between India and United States, and the fact that India is still continuing to engage United States in several other sectors despite a limited area of tariffs is something that Chinese are very well aware, and they want to utilize this opportunity to showcase their camaraderie with Indian leadership, which India is willing to engage and take advantage of. For example, India is gradually opening up to sort of Chinese investments in India. You can see voices from very important quarters in Indian establishment talking about jointmanship and joint projects by involving Chinese firms. That definitely is exciting because Chinese firms today have enormous leverages and leadership in many sectors. But when India wants to talk about India's, accepting Chinese FDI with technology transfers, then of course Chinese will decide what kind of technology is given to India, how far it goes beyond India's borders. Naturally, just like United States is also concerned when it gives technology to India as to where else it could go from India in that sense. So what I'm saying is, yes, there is a positive piecemeal momentum which we have seen from October last year, accelerated partly by this whole new tariff tirades of President Trump, his growing cultivation of Pakistan military and so on. But it's a gradual momentum which definitely is going to do good to both sides because they will build better kind of developmental partnerships. And as Einar Tangen said, this could even be seen as providing India a certain amount of leverage in negotiating with Donald Trump. That, here it is. And you see right now several people in United States, John Bolton, the former national security advisor, is saying that Donald Trump's tariffs are pushing India towards China and Russia. So there are multiple voices both in India and China and in United States. So to answer to your question, yes, perceptions increasingly matter on all sides and leaders are becoming increasingly conscious of those perceptions. So therefore, there is a certain amount of caution as both China and India start rebuilding a certain amount of relationship, which has seen a positive momentum, but it's going to take a certain amount of time before it moves forward. And what Donald Trump will do, whether those sort of trade will deal with United States and the tariffs coming down to average of 15 to 20%, whether that will reduce India's excitement in engaging China, we'll have to see in coming months as to how India-US relations move forward.
Okay, thank you all of you. Thank you so much for joining me on this conversation. This was on point one. In the second on point, we'll look at why Maximum City Mumbai, Amchi Mumbai, is deluged again, and there's another red alert on Wednesday after a short break.
Associate sponsor, Dyna Premium Beauty Soap. पहली झलक करे खूबसूरत.
Papa, let's go to the happy birthday, Doda. I love you. Go, Doda, go. I love my Doda.
Skoda. पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया.
सर, वाटर प्रूफिंग के लिए बेस्ट है.
हमेशा वाला क्यों नहीं?